In 1987, when truck stops still smelled of diesel and burnt coffee and the CB radio was a lifeline instead of a novelty, Delilah Dell Mercer hauled freight across the American Midwest. She was one of the only long-distance female truckers running solo routes out of Joplin, and she liked it that way. The road was simpler than people. The road didn't stare. Dell drove a midnight blue Kenworth with a silver Falcon painted on the cab. She ran I-44 to Oklahoma City, up through Wichita, sometimes east towards St. Louis. She kept a thermos wedged between her knees and Tammy Wynette humming through the static. The men at the truck stops called her Mercer the Messenger. They said she had ice in her veins. They were wrong. It was October 17th. A thin, needling rain fell across rural Oklahoma. Dell had just passed a weather-beaten sign welcoming drivers to Veneta when her CB crackled. Breaker 19. Anybody see that girl in the white dress? The voice was male. Panicked. Then it dissolved into shrieking feedback. Dell frowned. There hadn't been another rig for miles. A few minutes later, her headlights caught something on the shoulder. A woman stood near mile marker 182. White dress. Barefoot. Long dark hair plastered to her face. She wasn't hitchhiking. She wasn't waving. She was staring directly at Dell's windshield, even before the beams touched her. Dell slowed instinctively. She would later swear, under oath in therapy in her own journal, that the woman's eyes reflected like an animal's. Then Dell saw the blood. It soaked the front of the dress, black in the rain. Dell reached for the CB. The woman stepped into the lane. Dell slammed the brakes. The Kenworth screamed. The trailer fishtailed. The woman didn't move. And then she was gone. Not hit. Not thrown. Gone. Dell's truck shuddered to a stop across both lanes. Her heart thudded so violently she tasted copper. She threw on the hazards and jumped down into the rain. The highway was empty. No body. No footprints in the mud. No blood. Just the endless hum of the night. 2 miles ahead, Dell saw flashing lights. 3 sheriff's cruisers blocked an exit ramp. An ambulance idled. Yellow tape flapped in the wind. Dell pulled over again, shaken. A deputy approached her window. "You see anything strange back there?" he asked. She hesitated. "A woman," she said. "White dress. Covered in blood." The deputy's face went still. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "we just found a body." A young woman had been discovered beneath the overpass at mile marker 184. Bludgeoned. Dressed in jeans and a red sweater. No white dress. No bare feet. Dell insisted. She described the blood. The stare. The way the woman stepped in front of her truck. The deputy finally told her something that hollowed her out. The victim's name was Clara Bennett. She had disappeared 3 days earlier from a diner in Veneta. Witnesses last saw her wearing a white waitress uniform dress. The sheriff later corrected the detail officially. Clara had changed clothes before leaving work. But Dell had never known Clara worked at a diner. And she had never heard the name before that night. Dell couldn't sleep for weeks. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the woman's unblinking stare. Then came the nightmares. In them, she wasn't driving toward the woman. She was driving away. And in her side mirror, she could see the white dress tangled beneath her trailer. Months later, investigators arrested a local mechanic named Harold Ketter. He confessed to Clara's murder after DNA evidence tied him to the scene. Case closed. Except, in his confession, Ketter claimed he had never placed Clara near the highway shoulder. He killed her under the overpass. Immediately. There was no wandering. No escape attempt. No white dress in the rain. And one more detail never made it to the papers. The coroner estimated Clara's time of death at approximately 11:42 p.m. Dell had passed mile marker 182 at 11:38 p.m. For minutes before Clara officially died. Dell kept driving for another 25 years. She married once. Divorced quietly. No children. She refused routes through Oklahoma. But the sightings continued. Other truckers began reporting a bleeding bride along that same stretch of highway. The descriptions matched Dell's exactly. White dress. Barefoot. Stepping deliberately into traffic. Then vanishing. One driver swore she appeared inside his cab for a split second, reflected in the windshield. Another crashed his rig after swerving to avoid her. He survived. He never drove again. Dell never told anyone the part that truly destroyed her. On the night of Clara's murder, when Dell checked her trailer at a way station outside Tulsa, she found something caught in the rear door latch. A strip of white fabric, rain-soaked, with a smear of blood. She burned it in a trash barrel behind the station. She told herself it was road debris. She told herself it was coincidence. She told herself she hadn't felt the slightest bump when she braked at mile marker 182. In 2015, long after retirement, Dell agreed to speak to a paranormal investigator from Springfield who was compiling reports about haunted highways. He asked her the question no one had before. What if she wasn't trying to stop you? Dell felt the old ice creep back into her veins. What do you mean? What if she was trying to get into your truck? The investigator showed her crime scene photos that had recently been unsealed. Clara Bennett had defensive wounds. Under her fingernails was blue paint. Automotive paint. The exact shade used on Dell's Kenworth in 1987. Dell had never met Harold Ketter. But she remembered something now. A knock on her cab door at a rest stop outside Veneta that same evening. A young waitress asking for a ride west. Dell had refused. Company policy. No riders. The girl had looked disappointed. Desperate. She'd walked away toward a brown sedan idling under a flickering light. Dell had never mentioned it to police. She had convinced herself it wasn't important. Now, decades later, she understood the horror. Clara had escaped once. She had run. She had reached the highway. And she had stepped in front of the first truck she saw. Dell. The blood on the white dress wasn't from being hit. It was from being hunted. And when Dell slammed her brakes, Clara vanished because she was never meant to be saved. The coroner's time of death was wrong. Or something had rewritten it. To this day, Dell wakes at 11:38 p.m. without fail. She keeps her mirrors covered at night. Because sometimes, in the dark reflection of her bedroom window, she sees a barefoot woman standing just behind her. Not accusing. Not angry. Waiting. As if the road never truly ended.